But we're going to start this show with our first look at the first roster for Greg Berhalter 2.0. Greg Berhalter naming 24 players to his roster for the upcoming friendlies against Uzbekistan and Oman. Now, there's a key list of guys who are not available either through injury or fitness. Tyler Adams, Gio Reyna, Josh Sargent, Zach Steffen, Sean Johnson, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Walker Zimmerman, and Taylor Booth. The big surprises on this list, a couple dual nationals. One we've talked a lot about, Benjamin Cremaschi. The other we haven't talked so much about, Danish-American Christopher Lund. Here's Greg Berhalter, who had some more information on his call-ups.
We talked to Ben about, being able to come into the group and fit into what we're doing, to represent the United States of America, which is a wonderful honor. He grew up here. He's played for youth national team programs in the past. We had Benha in camp in October prior to the World Cup. He was with the U20 group. And he immediately caught my eye for his just tenacity and his relentlessness. He's a kid that he was playing out of position in that camp, playing winger, sometimes forward, but he never quit. He never gave up. He kept running. I mean, he was running himself silly. And it really showed me what his mindset was like. And I was really impressed with that. And then now watching his progress with Inter Miami, he's done a great job. And it's not only, post Messi. I think even pre-Messi. With Drake, it's been more of this steady ascent. He's gotten, this is his second year that he's been playing, and he's getting games under his belt, and you can see that he's growing in confidence. Just really athletic. I think really good timing, come out and get catching crosses. Very good shot stopper. Fortunately for him, he had a lot of action to do early in the year at Inter Miami, but he's done a great job and really played his way onto the team. Christopher, he's a guy that, has been on our radar for the last 2 years. We've been watching him play for his club, and unfortunately, before the last World Cup, I just didn't think he was ready. Since then, he's gone on to win a Swedish league. He's got a transfer. And, we think that he could potentially fill the void that we had at the left back position in terms of our depth. That's something that we've struggled at for a while. Anthony Robinson has been the clear starter, is a fantastic player, but no one's really grabbed that second position. And we're seeing what he can do and if he can challenge for that spot.
All right, if anyone knows how to complain about a Greg Berhalter roster, it is you, Hercules Gomez. Are you cool with this 24-player list for these September friendlies?
Yeah, believe it or not, it's a pretty solid roster, as solid as you can get given the circumstances. All the players that are injured are not available. We can nitpick here at player number 23 and so forth, maybe Benjamin Cremaschi, and I did it the other day on the show. Listen, I maintain it, and you welcome all those content creators out there that I'm giving you. Stuart Holden and I, through social media, had a little discussion and gave you plenty to talk about, but you cannot deny that Lionel Messi being by your side does not shine a different light on you. Now, I will say, that's not Benjamin Cremaschi's problem. Benjamin Cremaschi's problem, and the only thing he should be worried about, is taking advantage of this great opportunity. But I would feel pretty hard done if I'm the Jack McGlynn's or the Philadelphia Unions of the world, who was a U20 prospect and went to that U20 World Cup. If I was Brian Gutierrez, who I couldn't go, who plays for Chicago Fire because Chicago wouldn't let him go, a very creative player. If I was Noel Buck of the New England Revolution and I wasn't on that U20 roster either for different circumstances. All, by the way, and Diego Luna, you could say, who was on that roster. All these players that just named happen to be dual nats. Now, I don't believe in the argument of, well, Argentina might take him. If you think Argentina is looking at Benjamin Cremaschi, I don't know what to tell you. I think he's a wonderful prospect. I think he's got massive ceiling. But playing on a team where you have possession 70% of the time and you're next to Lionel Messi, you will look better than you are. Now, that doesn't mean anything to him. Take advantage of this opportunity. It's a great opportunity, and it's a pretty good, solid roster.
Yeah. I think if you're a U.S. fan and you're getting ready for the second look at Greg Berhalter, the one big concern is he going to bring the guys who were labeled Berhalter guys back? And I think it's pretty clear on this roster that he's moving away from those guys, and some of them are pretty obvious, right? Jordan Morris, the Christian Rodans of the world, the Aaron Longs of the world. But those guys were obvious sometimes in the past, and they'd still make their way onto the roster. So they're not here. One name that I do think is a Greg Berhalter guy, but doesn't necessarily maybe fit into that veteran group that you can say, all right, the program has moved past, is a guy like Jesus Ferreira, Herc. And given all of the times that I've heard you defend him, despite the fact that his goals sometimes come against, yes, lesser competition.
You defend him.
And the fact that he is coming off a pretty good summer by all counts. I am surprised that Hercules Gomez is not in this list. Are you?
No, he didn't play last game because I believe he had the, what's the medical term for that? The squirts. So he didn't play. Others were saying he was going to go to Cadiz and that was in the works. Not the case. I don't think he's been exactly lighting up Major League Soccer per se, where he has to be there. And the national team isn't, you got a placeholder because of who you are. There are very few players in international football that can go no matter what their level is. If you're not in a good run of form, still get that call up. The rest of us mortals, you've got to work. And if you're not at a good level, well, it's another opportunity for somebody else. And given the makeup of this roster, the two nines are who? Fuller and Balogun and Ricardo Pepi. I don't think anybody's disputing their top two nines right now, given the circumstances available to Greg Berhalter.
One more note on this roster. It truly does now, Herc, feel like Christian Pulisic's team. Obviously, he was the best player for a long time. It's crazy to, at just 24 years old, see him as the most capped player with 60 appearances for the U.S. men's national team. And Greg Berhalter, in the explanation behind kind of the roster here, says, we want to keep a core. Well, you see one of the guys that always keeps coming back is Christian Pulisic. And for all the injury issues that he's had at club, when this national team needs him, and even though it's friendlies, this is kind of the beginning under Greg Berhalter, the second beginning. I think you can't overstate Christian Pulisic's role. And it is wild that before he hits 25, he is truly now not just the best player, but like the grizzled veteran on this team. He's the most experienced player in the group.
Tim Ream's 36 years old. He's older than I am. And guess what? Christian Pulisic has more caps and more appearances than him. Christian Pulisic has been around, man. And say what you will, he's always sought refuge in the U.S. men's national team. That's always been a refresher for him. It's where he's gone, and it's been a safe space. So it's no wonder the kid wants to keep coming back, because this well for him has always worked.
All right, you mentioned Christopher Lund, the Danish-American. Now, it's rare that a player sneaks up on us, or at least sneaks up on anybody in the U.S. men's national team kind of fan world, right? Everybody's usually got their radar pretty well tuned. It's not to say that he snuck up on people, but I think folks thought he was pretty far away from a senior national team call-up. So what's the story? He's 21 years old. He's Danish-American. He's played for Danish youth national teams. He's playing for Palermo right now in Serie B in Italy. And he has filed for the one-time switch to the United States with FIFA. Herc, what was your reaction to seeing Christopher Lund's name on the U.S. roster here?
Yeah, interesting, right? Because as you said, it's not like anything gets past us. And sure, somewhere along the lines, maybe online, I saw his name come up. One of those, also has, dual possibilities. But to all of a sudden be on the radar and be called up is eye-opening, because this call-up means you're filing for a one-time switch. This is a player who played U17s, U18s, U19s, U20s, U21s with Denmark. So obviously he's of quality. Swedish Cup, Swedish Championship, and at 21 years old, he was garnering interest from clubs like Galatasaray. He's got good size to him. He's 6 foot, and I've watched him play. I've watched a bunch of his stuff online. I've watched a few of his games. The guy is of the mold of an Anthony Robinson. Loves to get up and down, very physical, willing to put his body on the line, but in the final third, has a touch more, I would say, creativity, if you will, on the ball than an Anthony Robinson. Good left foot that he swings in, but very much of the mold of being hard-nosed, physical, up and down, will defend first type of guy. The thing here is, you're not bringing him in to compete with Anthony Robinson. Anthony Robinson's left back number one. That's top tier, but he's also one of the most important players for Greg Berhalter, one of the most productive players for Greg Berhalter. As Anthony Robinson goes, this U.S. men's national team tends to go as well. I looked at the left back backups, if you will, over the past. I mean, there's some names on here like George Bello, Sam Vines, DeJuan Jones, Joe Scally's played left back, John Tolkien, Kevin Paredes, Jonathan Gomez. You know who the backup left back is out of all of them? It's Serginho Dest. That's how slim it is at left back for the U.S. men's national team. So bringing in depth, bringing in somebody who can nip at those heels for an Anthony Robinson, or be there in case he gets injured or he's not in form, that's a benefit, especially somebody who's already got a little bit of European pedigree in him.
Where does this file under your "we're giving away caps too easily" complaints?
Well, no. It's not giving away caps. I mean, you have an obvious need at this position, and here's a player that's proven himself at a certain level, gaining interest from some of the top teams in the world. And I think he's of the mold of somebody you have. It actually fits into your program, into that system. So I have no issue with this. This guy has a body of work to go with him. There are players out there who don't have that body of work. We spoke about Cremaschi. He's not played a full season. He's got like under 20 or 2,000 minutes, if you will, professional minutes. So, you know, those are different. But as far as him, this is a one-time switch. Is part of the program going forward. It's a risk on his part, and I would say calculated risk for Greg Berhalter, but one given the circumstances that you would take.